Hello and welcome to Won't Be Forgetting That, a podcast talking all about the most embarrassing and awkward moments of people working in the arts and entertainment business. Today, we have a guest. They are a singer, a performer, a showman, Stewart Reeve.
Hi.
Oh, that was a very, hi.
Hi.
Now, Stewart, you're another alumni of a well-known theatre restaurant, which may or may not have been around vampires. We're not going to mention the name this week's. One of our former guests mentioned the name and I had to bleep that out, but we're not going to mention it this week.
No, we're not.
But I do want to apologize to the audience as well for constantly getting people in from this theatre restaurant. I don't have any other friends or know anyone else talented.
I think it's the same one I'm thinking of.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
We'll talk about this afterwards. Yeah. It's just that place, it really did spew out a lot of incredibly talented people, and then I ran out of them and got Stewart Reeve on. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm joking. Stuart's incredibly talented.
Stop it, please.
He did ask me to say that before we came on the podcast, though. Now, Stu, can I start off with a little bit of a story from there about you?
Yeah.
I've just sprung this on him. He doesn't know anything about
you're
this.
telling the story? Okay,
I'm going to tell
All
the
right.
story, but it's about you, and I want to see if you remember this.
Oh.
So one of my favourite moments whilst I was working there was, so Stewart Reeve, why don't you tell us what you did there?
well,
First off.
Well, I was, I started there on the floor.
Yep.
Which was...
On the floor, he doesn't mean lying down. He
No.
means working as a waiter.
No, I wasn't carpet.
No,
I started as
he
a
ended
waiter,
up on the floor, but yeah, he
And-
didn't start
And then
as a floor.
was a performer in the show, so I did a
Yeah.
bit of stand-up comedy, a bit of singing, bit
Yeah.
of just mincing around on stage.
A lot of mincing around on stage from
Yeah.
memory,
I
yeah.
wouldn't say dancing, but I think the industry term is
Step 1, 2.
yeah, or natural mover. I think.
Oh,
is
Is that what's on the CV now, is it? Yeah.
natural mover. I can get out
Natural
of the chair, all right.
mover?
Yes. What's the story? My God.
So Stuart, he's being very oh god. See, I do a podcast and I forget words sometimes. What's that thing where you're being humble? So Stuart's being very humble just now. So he was the lead performer of the show, I want to say. You were the front man, you were the centerpiece. You're the only reason people went there was to see Stewart Reeve up on stage.
Stop it.
But you were right in the middle of it was either one of your little sort of comedy bits or it was in the middle of a song.
Right.
Center lit, and as I've mentioned on one of the previous shows as well, that place had a little catwalk that you came out, and you were right in the middle of the audience, out there singing, and halfway through the song, smacked in the face by a fajita. And just the sheer, in that split second it happened, every range of emotion, the shock, anger, confusion, staring into, because when you're on stage, you couldn't see the audience that well because you were obviously spotlit and the
Yes.
audience was in darkness.
Yes.
And then not knowing what had gone on.
Yeah.
One of our former guests and mutual friend as well.
Yes. Whose
Paul-
photo might be
Paul
hanging
Westbrook,
on the
who is
yeah.
currently staring at us from his headshot hanging on my wall, which is a little bit embarrassing in that, had thrown a fajita at you and slapped you straight in the face. But I tell you what, I fucking love that. It was so funny.
I remember it. I think it skimmed my face, and somebody took a video of it and was like, "Oh no, we can't show Stuart that because he'll get really angry." I think it was right towards the end, and everything was sort of starting to, everyone was starting to get a little bit crazy, and
The end of the entire theatre restaurant's life as
yes,
well, yeah.
Yeah, it was slowly being lowered, and I do recall it. I remember this thing sort of brushing past my face. And then there was just sort of all this commotion about something had happened, but I didn't realize it had happened because it didn't sort of slap me. It just grazed me, but it was enough for me to go what was that?
Just a kiss on the cheek from a flying fajita.
Yes, I do remember. I mean, I feel like I've been hit in the face. I remember one night singing and the confetti cannons went off and I was sort of about to launch into the next note and a piece of confetti landed on my tongue.
Oh.
We had sort of desserts and all sorts. I remember
really?
before we started the show once, we had a chocolate dessert sort of just on the stage. It was baptism by fire, I think, was
Baptism by food just flying at you.
by food, but in a good way because it was it kind of taught you to deal with.
Fuck, you would have to come up against everything in there, hey?
Everything. I mean, you're not just doing a regular, a musical theater gig
No,
or something. But
There's nothing regular
yeah,
about that place. Yeah, I had Rachel Trainer on previously as well, who's in one of your current shows too.
Yes.
And she was talking about it, but like having to do quick changes, and you're wearing so many different costumes, and you come out and you're like, oh great, there's people just sitting there drinking like cocktails out of blood bags and just eating their sweet potato mash and just being like,
my God.
all of them are just like, where the fuck am I?
Yes, I've
And
often thought about that story, and like I do wish I had seen the video to watch it back, because I think it just skimmed me, and I can feel it now, like just brushing past me. I was sort of frotaged by a fajita, like it was just, yeah. Oh my
See, that's so
God.
funny because I don't know. Like, obviously, you have a much better memory. My memory is it smacks you in the face and you're angry. See, this is the funny thing with this as well, because obviously it's just memories of stories and these kind of things, and sometimes they're just like, you get told them or you retell them sometimes, and they get a little bit more like jazzed up, and but I'm glad that you can rectify that it was just a little kiss.
Yeah, a little kiss.
A little passing vajita. But yeah, I remember everyone else was like, don't tell him it was one of us. They'd be so fucking angry.
I just recall it was just one of those. I mean, I don't think it registered exactly what it was. So it was just sort of like, I think something's happened, but it felt like a bug or something. I just wasn't aware. But yeah, please you brought that up. It is a very funny story to think that.
I know,
that
not
happened.
embarrassing as well, but I just wanted to start off with a nice little memory that we shared together. Maybe not the correct memory that I had apparently then,
right.
but I think I prefer my version, I'll be honest. So speaking of said redacted theater, restaurant, vampire themed cabaret, whatever else you might call it as, do we have any stories from there, or do we only have stories from far less weird places?
I mean, I do have stories from there. I think there are so many stories, but I think one of the first ones that sprung to memory the other day when I was chatting to you was I didn't realize getting into sort of late night showbiz just how many people get fingered.
Oh, and I just want to clarify this. By fingered, do you mean like sticking a finger in an orifice?
Yes, like
right, okay.
I have done, and like I used to jump out of that place that we're talking about into another gig, like in the last couple of years of everything. It was sort of like racing from there to this sort of pub gig, and I used to be a part of this like 80s cover band, which was
fun,
which was just next level. And so you'd run out of that gig, you'd jump into the costumes. I had about 15-20 minutes to sort of get changed, and then you're singing till 3 a.m.
Far out.
And
Jesus.
I just recall so many times, just you by that time you get there, it's like 11 o'clock, 11:30
to the
next gig.
Place after the vampire restaurant. Yeah,
people are primed, they've got their double denim on, they've got their raspberry vodkas. And I can't believe the amount of times I've looked out into a crowd and just witnessed things going on that I just thought would never happen. And I mean, I just find that really so awkward that people are so game to do that down the front.
Maybe it's something about your voice, those sweet notes, and they're like, wow, I could really stick a finger in someone just now.
I just never thought it would be something that I would experience.
I'm impressed you could see it from stage as well. That must have been pretty obvious.
Well, it wasn't, I'm not talking graphics here. I'm just talking like it was very obvious that these things were happening.
Like a hand had disappeared somewhere. Yes. You weren't seeing the insertion.
No, but you were just like, is this happening? And you're sort of looking at the other band members on stage, and everybody else is clocking this at the same time, going,
fantastic.
You've got to be kidding me. And that was like, those are some of the awkward things that I thought I would never experience.
It's not what they teach you in drama school, is it? Bloody... Why don't they tell us about this sort of stuff?
Fingering the 3 F's of theater, whatever whatever the third one might be.
Fuck knows, that's what it is. Yeah. Always be prepared for fuck knows what.
Always be prepared. But I just, I there were so many. I've got a few stories about that, but I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it. But you
never want to spend too much time on fingering.
No, but it was definitely one of the most awkward.
So do you call it out, or do you just watch it and just hope that they finish quick? Because I don't know if I could continue. I mean, you're obviously a consummate professional, so you just breeze right past it. But
I just froze up and sort of moved away from the situation because I just, I think there's certain people who obviously get their kicks out of other people knowing that something's going on.
Yeah.
And you could clearly see that this is what this was about.
Oh, okay. So they weren't just fuck-eyed and like off their face on their 12th raspberry vodka.
Well, I think they were in that realm,
Right, okay.
because we're talking about, 11:30,
Yep.
people
Saturday
have been there all
night.
night.
Yep.
You're ready for that late night sort of gig where
Yep.
it's like 11 till 2-ish.
Yeah, nothing good happens there.
Nothing happens good in that time period. You got a full dance floor. It was just one of those moments that I think, and then I feel like I've seen it a couple of times, and it always just
Far out.
blows my mind to be like, is this really happening? Is this? And it's so awkward because you're up there trying to focus on.
I love the surrealism of it as well. Like that sort of stuff does happen, and you're like, the fuck am I watching? And you can't share it with anyone else. Obviously,
No.
you need to continue singing or whatever.
You can't.
I don't know about you. It's probably not the most professional thing in the world. Take a photo or a video of it as well. Take yourself a little selfie of that happening in the background.
Definitely not. But I just think I am not one for like. I don't really go to a club.
Yep.
Like I don't really go to a pub that often. Like,
Yeah, I'm
it's
the same.
It's
Just-
not my scene.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to be in those environments, it's probably because I'm either, performing or doing something else
Yeah.
other than that. But
People are there to see you. You're not there to see them.
Oh,
Yuck.
I don't know, but it's not my kind of scene. And
Yeah.
and when you sort of when you're you're allowed to go sort of backstage and sort of get
Yeah.
different points of view on these
Yes.
places, it's such a eye opener to be like, you're kidding me. Like, this is what happens in these environments.
Especially because you're there stone cold sober as well. So if that was going on whilst, like, if I was there and saw that and I was drunk, it's like, that's a funny thing. But then if you're super sober and
Yeah.
performing where you're, like, really switched on as well, you're like, fuck, that's going to be etched into my eyelids after I see this. I'm going to jump on with a very similar story as well. So this is back to the vampire-themed restaurant,
Right,
which
yes.
we shall not be naming this episode.
No.
But so I was on the floor, and by that I do mean working as a waiter, not lying down on the floor.
No.
Although I think a few of us had nights like that in there anyway. But I was around serving people, and it's like, again, this theatre restaurant, you got a real eclectic mix of people that
Yes.
come in.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I think it would be the polite way of saying it. And I went up to this one table of 3 gentlemen in their 50s, I'd say, and I would also say a little bit more flamboyant bunch. And I went up to them and I'd served them a couple of times, and I went back, and so you're only allowed to order during the breaks of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went up to them during the break, and I went up to see if they wanted any drinks. And it was a bit of a quieter night this night as well. And one of the guys was scrolling through his phone, and all the photos on his phone was just him aggressively squeezing his cock. So it was just, one hand was obviously holding the phone, the other hand was like firmly gripped around an erection, and I used. I presume was trying to make it look more vascular,
More, yeah.
more blood filled.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so went up. He looked at me. I looked at him after we'd both seen the photos, and he just locked his phone. He's like, "We're okay for drinks just now, thank you." I was like, "Wow, I did not expect to see that tonight."
Thank you.
But why would you be scrolling through that? Like, I don't know. Some of the people in there, I think it's because like ourselves or some of the cast members were scantily clad, and like as I mentioned on one of the previous episodes, I wore a little mesh tank top, so people were a little bit confused of like, what are the boundary heres and
know.
stuff like that.
People tend to lose their minds a little bit.
They do, don't they?
In those spaces, it's a very, I look. It's such a strange environment being in theater. It's just. I don't know. It's just weird, but like I've had some funny moments. Like I remember one of the funniest moments early on, same place we're talking about, was probably when I was understudying, like the first getting into the show. And
So an understudy, for anyone that doesn't know as well, would be
someone who is there to cover another role.
Yeah, so essentially if someone's either away on holiday or sick or something like
Yes.
that, then you've got your understudy who would step up to that role.
Yeah, so I just jump in and cover their spot for however long they were away. But I remember we used to do this like blacklight puppet thing, and there was this giant dinosaur costume. It was a T-Rex, and it was like a 2-person thing. And basically, the person there was one person who controlled the head, which was like
Okay.
this really long stick.
Yeah.
It was probably way before your time. I don't know.
This was definitely before. The
Yeah.
only blacklight puppet show I remember is Vagina.
Right. we come back to that.
We can come back to the Vagina, but yeah, sorry, T-Rex.
It was a giant T-Rex, and the person in the bottom wore like this sort of God, it was almost like a compost. Well, it probably was a compost bin.
Oh,
Like the shape of it and the size of it.
that weird like tube plasticky
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
tube sort of plasticky thing, and you know, like one of those green ones you sit in the garden and the bottom's sort of out of it, and you just
Yeah.
keep throwing stuff into it, and the rest of it was wrapped in sort of like dinosaur rib cage,
yeah.
and you would have to put on like, you know, I think it was like there was some like dinosaur shoes, and the whole thing would sort of glow like that yellow and orange fluorescent sort of-
Something that shows up nicely under black
Yeah.
light. Yeah.
and the head part was like, it was really well made, and the head part was like, it had a T-Rex head and had like a little hat on.
Oh.
And so you would run off stage and basically from one act, and
Yep.
two people would jump into this. So that night I was the body.
Oh, okay. You were the compost bin. Yeah, nice.
The compost bin.
That's on the CV as well.
And someone else was the head. Now, backstage had a really low roof, and there was sort of like, you know,
That's right.
ropes and curtains and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, there's so many things that you could trip over or knock into or pull down. Yeah.
So I've whacked the costume on, and you know, basically it's like, you know, once this thing was on, because I think there was gloves and everything.
Wow.
Once this thing was on, it was basically like, you know, you couldn't really call, you know, your stage manager to
Yep.
say like it's gone wrong, like, you know, we need to.
Oh
pause.
yeah, no, you're finding out like
You're
on
in it.
stage, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the feeling was like someone else had packed your parachute wearing this thing, because you're waiting for someone else to finish the top bit. So I've put the body on, and then someone else has thrown the head over. And when the head's gone over, the mouth is caught in a whole heap of like
Oh
curtains and ropes.
shit.
So we've panicked. Anyway, the track's still running. So when
Yep, of course.
when it started, I was like, we can't not. 'Cause
Yeah.
the whole start of the act was this talking dinosaur with a little ukulele.
Okay.
So, but you know, it was like it would come out and it would do the song. So basically, the track's running, the head's caught. I've panicked, and I've just run out. So
Just you?
just this headless dinosaur
Oh.
with the ukulele has run out on stage. You know,
Oh,
this
compost bin with a ukulele. Beautiful.
this is like my understudy debut. You know, like I'm gonna have a role here one day, and I've run out on stage. And basically, I think it was like maybe, you know, every time you're on stage, like 30 seconds feels like a lifetime.
Oh my god, 5 seconds feels like a lifetime, especially if something goes wrong.
But,
Far out.
but eventually, this head came floating out and joined me. But I think the show notes was something like, you know, great show tonight, apart from the, you know, panicked dinosaur body that came mincing out on stage, and then its head followed later. But I think I don't know, it was like early learning days, you know, but it was just so funny to think that this headless
Or
dinosaur.
a decapitated dinosaur had to come out on stage and play a ukulele for the
Yes.
audience, who,
Oh my god.
especially because, like, obviously the audience doesn't know what's going on. That's just a fucking confusing thing to see as well. They're like,
It is, because
this doesn't make sense as far as any of the show goes, but
No.
cool, I suppose.
I know it was good that the head made it out, but it was just one of those awkward moments where it was like the song starting,
Yep.
something has to happen, because otherwise the audience is looking at a completely blacked out room
Yeah.
with nothing.
Yeah.
So
And that can really kill a show as well. If you're just like sitting in the audience, just
We're
staring
already
at
dead.
darkness, and you're like, "Cool, thanks. I paid over $100 for
Yes.
this. I suppose this is nice to listen to a
Oh my
track
God.
play."
That was, yeah, there was some really good times there. I remember there was this one time I used to, my two front teeth are quite big,
Okay.
right? And they're like, so they're good, you know, good like space for real estate. And
Oh, nice. So if anyone wants to buy any real estate, it's hard to get any in Melbourne
I
just
know.
now. Just contact Stuart after the show.
if these were in Sydney, it'd be a fortune.
Oh,
but,
mate, you'd be fucking laughing.
but I remember one of the girls who I was working with, who I idolized. She was always so professional and was like, you know,
The hell was she doing there then?
no,
No,
but-
I'm joking. Everyone was very professional there.
But when I started, she used to do the, you know, when I watched it from side stage, I was like, oh my God, she's so consistent every night, you know,
Yep.
hits the note, does the thing, like that's what I want to be like. And I remember when she started to, when it got to the end of her time there, you know, we started to get a little bit silly, you know, because you've done
Oh,
the same
lost
show
your
for
mind.
like,
Yeah.
3, you know, what is it, 52 weeks of the year. You've done it for like
Yeah, and
50
like
weeks.
as I was saying before as well, it's like 4 or 5 shows per week as well.
Yes.
So you're like 300
Yes.
shows. Like it's mad the amount of times that you have to do it, and it's the same show every night as well. Like there's no room for
Yes.
changing it up or anything.
No,
It's very set.
It's so, but you know, like you would towards the end, you know, because I remember early on doing funny things to make her giggle. She used to, you know, because she was also cast manager, she used to get like really annoyed and which is fine because you know obviously there's a level of professionalism,
of course.
But as we got towards the end, it was like I think we both knew that it was, you know, let's be silly, let's enjoy these moments. And I remember there was this number where it was like she was singing it was like a James Bond thing, and she was like Goldfinger, and I used to come out in this safari suit and sunnies on and grab her hand and twirl her into me. And so we were sort of like, we were face to face, you know, for a brief moment.
Yeah, okay.
And I used to, a couple of times, but one time in particular, I remember getting the black eyeliner pencil, which was like that crayon sort of stuff.
Yeah, just real thick and heavy and rubs off and everything.
And I sharpened it before I went on, and I dried my two front teeth, and I wrote hi, but I did it backwards.
Oh, wow.
So that when I smiled at her, I had hi written across my teeth.
Fuck, that's impressive. God damn.
I mean, you know, I had time to think about it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know, it was
too much time to think about it, apparently.
She got the giggles. Like, she just found it, you know, like really funny. But it was just little moments like that. I used to do that too, like in the blacklight puppets.
Yeah.
Just black out a tooth completely because your teeth would glow, you know, when you smiled. So you would black one out completely.
Nice toothless grin. Yeah, beautiful. That would be so fucking fun to see as well. Like a nice little toothless man smiling up on stage. You're like, oh, that's an interesting look he's gone for in this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or another favorite of mine was because I could just see it. It doesn't work without the visuals. But we used to have these wigs that had like the lace at the front. So the lace at the front means that it would blend in with your forehead really well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it looked real, like really quite real. The hairline, yeah.
Proper decent wigs, yeah.
But if you put it on the wig and you pulled it back just enough to bring it up to your hairline, you would end up with this massive forehead.
So it looked like a real receding hairline kind of a deal.
Yes. So another funny thing to do was just to pull it back enough and come out, you know, just with a really high forehead. And those who you know would pick up detail like that just would find it quite funny because it was so easy to just.
That guy's got a 5 head and 3 missing teeth. This is the weirdest looking cast I've ever seen.
So yeah, I mean, oh my god, I haven't thought about these things for years. But
I know, like that's why I always say with this, it's always like bringing up past traumas. You just expel them from your body. You're like, be gone, be gone. But yeah, at least this stuff's like, this is fun. You're not going out there and you're like accidentally splitting your pants each night or anything like that.
I do remember one night doing a really big song. I had a massive song in the middle of the show, and I remember jumping out of one number.
Yep.
It was like you know, I think in this number I did like 5 different quick change characters.
Oh, yeah.
So I stripped down basically to nothing at the end, and then I had to jump out of that straight into this next thing. So I had to put this gold dress on, this gold sequin dress that was basically like, you know, it was like a sack with arms in it.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
So I remember, and it had like a big zip up the back, so it had like a pull cord, this black pull cord.
And you had to do it yourself as well. Fuck, that sounds hectic.
So I would like step into it, pull it up, put the arms through, reach back, pull it up. And I remember one night I came off after this quick change and I had it hanging on a coat hanger, which I don't normally do. It was you know, I always used to preset it on the floor. But I remember just pulling it off the coat hanger and putting it on like a t-shirt. So I put my arms, you know, I went through the bottom.
Okay.
You know, so it was already zipped up. So I put it basically straight on and, you know, head through the hole, arms out ready to go. And I was like, that was quick. That was really good. You know, like, well done me. Like, you know, went out on stage, did this huge number, got a massive round of applause for it. Like, thought,
oh, of course, massive round of applause. You hear that, everyone?
No, but
massive.
But it was the first time that I was like, oh my god, like this went off tonight.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember finishing the number and being like, yeah, you know, and then I walked off stage, went to unzip it from the back. And the whole time I had the dress on back to front. So I had this massive zip down the front with this big pull cord.
Is that a good look, was it?
I don't know, but I was, you know, it was a real, like, you know, it was real, like, oh.
What the fuck did I just do?
Yeah.
But massive round of applause. Apparently that's the way you're meant to be wearing that dress.
I don't know, but yeah. Just an awkward moment where you were like, oh, killed it, you know, and then you're like,
but like,
shit.
Forgivable because genuinely you would have got dressed in the dark there.
Yes, but I don't know what happened that night, but I mean, it was probably nobody noticed, but it was just one of those minor details that I was like, I can't believe I've just killed this number and I put the costume on back.
I say that sometimes, like a lot of live shows as well. People don't know what's going on, so you can get away with a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
But it's always you at the end of it. You're like, the fuck did I just do there?
What?
Yeah. Why am I dressing myself backwards? But apparently it worked. So there you go.
There was some great stories. I mean, maybe you need to prompt me in some areas that maybe I've forgotten or other shows, but I just feel like there are so many moments in when you're doing shows that people either I don't think I've ever had a really big one where I've like it's been super obvious, but
just like a fuck up or something gone wrong.
Really
fair play.
But yeah, my God.
I always love live theater for that as well, especially when the audience is sitting so close to you. They're always very happy to comment. Now, in the theater restaurant, people would talk a lot anyway. It's kind of the vibe. It's not as bad. Like, obviously, if you're going to see live performances, shut up.
Yes.
You're not there to chat. You're there to listen to somebody on stage, and they can hear you.
Yeah.
No matter how much, if you're like, hey,
Yeah.
everyone can hear you, you dickhead. Shut up. I did this one play. It was for Midsummer, which is the big like LGBT plus festival in Melbourne. What was it, like 5 years ago maybe now? I was in a play for that, and it was all about like male sexuality and stuff like that. But there's this one point where I'm playing a teacher, and the joke was like his shorts are always so short you can see his balls. And like we do that, and we had the people made a joke about that on stage, and I came back on, and then like I sat down, and you could like it was like I was wearing very short shorts.
Yes.
And then all I heard from the audience, and one of the quiet parts was like, "Oh my God, I can see his balls!" And I was like, "Fuck!" I tried so like I was like genuinely like, "You're sitting in the front row, I can hear you." Like, and it was like 2 meters away from the stage. Maybe it was at Gasworks. I'm sure you've performed in there before as well, or at least no Gasworks. Oh, here we go. I've got a dog trying to break down the door whilst we're recording here as well.
Get on the floor!
Yeah.
we're being raided as we speak.
Oh, fuck, they're listening in. They're like, stop talking about balls and cock so much.
I've got a season of my show Chameleon coming up at Gasworks. I think it's in. Geez, I should know the dates of this, but they'll be.
I'll put it in the show notes. I'll do all the work
do all of
for
that.
you, Stuart.
But
so I'll like we can all come along and see that. Do we get to see your balls in that?
No, there's none of that. It's
all right. Well, I don't know about that then, dear listener. You can go and see it if you want, but the only reason I go to Gasworks is to see someone's balls now.
But yes, I have done shows in there. Oh my God, I there's just sitting here thinking about all of these awkward moments. I feel like I'm filtering a lot of things too. Like
it's the thing with this sort of stuff, and obviously this isn't live. This is a podcast.
Yes.
Like if you think this is live, good on you. I don't know how you get through life, but like I have had to edit out a couple of little bits in previous episodes as well. I'm very lazy and not very technically minded, so I don't want to have to edit anything out. But a lot of people are kind of concerned about saying certain things. That's also why we don't mention that cabaret restaurant. But yeah, it's all. I've not had anyone so far being like, take that out entirely. So I understand as well, but you can feel free to share whatever you feel comfortable, and it's always possible to edit it out, but I'm gonna leave this part in so people may hit you up on Instagram. So yeah, send Stuart some DMs if you want to know if we have had to cut anything out.
Find me at Stewface.
Yeah. We'll do that at the end. So yeah, I'll make sure everyone knows where to send them. I mean, just send them any DMs if you want. If you're that guy from the theater restaurant that had those 1,000 pictures of your cock, send that through. Why not?
I had someone shove their number in my shoe one night.
What?
Which was a really...
I also, you said that and I was like, number. He said number, right?
Yes.
They shoved their number in his shoe.
Yes, their number.
Yep.
It's so, I would just remember being on stage. I think I even called it out too. And I just remember feeling this little, like, sort of tug at the bottom of my pants.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. Because, people sometimes would just put their arm on stage because their seats were right
next to the stage. People used to put their drinks up there as well.
Yeah.
Very bizarre people.
All that sort of stuff. And I just remember this little, like, tug on my jeans. And then it's like a sort of finger went into my sock, and then I was like, oh my God. And I was like, someone's just put their number in my... Do
you know what they looked like?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember, but
this is Stuart's partner to date.
But I just recall... Oh my God, sorry, I just burped. I just recall...
I'll leave that part in. I'm not editing that out. If you want any more burps from Stuart, DM him as well. You can set that up. We've got some sort of PayPal thing we can work out.
Oh my God.
Stuart's turned bright red now as well.
I didn't do anything with it, but I did call it out when I was there. But I
would have texted, I'll be honest with you.
There was so many strange moments like that where people would just, like, it was just a really...
It was a strange place, wasn't it? And like, I think a lot of people that went there had never really seen live shows before, and maybe hadn't been to anywhere that was quite as salacious. Like, again, it was like everyone was clothed, but like some people were just in nipple pasties, which is what we've mentioned before. So it's just like a little nipple covering, but essentially the whole boob's out.
Yeah.
And then people in mesh tank tops and hot pants. So they're like, oh, it's like, I've never seen this much flesh on, like, these are like 50-year-old women that work in accounts, and they're like, oh my God, I'm just gonna grab these people.
I know. I mean, it was bizarre, but like what some people would get up to in that. But it was such a strange one. I feel like most of the theater stuff is quite bizarre. You know, like what we're doing is a really... it's just such a random weird thing. I mean, I remember one night we were in Adelaide doing a show. Totally, this is totally separate from what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think we should move on from this goddamn restaurant as well. It's taken up so much of our life, and we just keep reliving it now.
We finished the show, and people were like standing. It was like a standing ovation, sort of like, great show. And this old man just walked on stage, took the microphone off the stand.
Oh my God!
That was bloody good. And it was some winemaker from Adelaide somewhere, and he promised us a case of wine and all this other stuff.
Did he give you that wine?
No, we didn't.
Motherfucker!
I think we did chase it up.
Oh yeah, what company was this? We'll call them out right now.
I can't remember.
Anyone in Adelaide that wants to send us some wine, here's another sponsor for the show. If you want anyone anywhere that wants to send us some wine, hit up Stu on Instagram. You feel free to hit up me as well. I don't really drink wine, but I'll take anything that's free.
It was so bizarre. It was just like, what is going on here?
I'm amazed by the I don't know if it's ego or not, but like just the way that certain people's brains work, where they're like, I don't know if they're trying to be part of the show, they're trying to help out. Like I've seen a lot of circus shows and theater shows. Theater shows less so, I feel like people are interactive with them, but circus shows sometimes people are like, it's like a real tense moment and they're doing their really big trip and there's just someone in the crowd like, yeah, fucking do it, mate.
I know.
You're like, shut up. Do this massive jump. Like,
It's a workspace, like we have to, like, this is what blows my mind is that there's this really, and a lot of the times it's fine, but there's a lot of times when it's just not okay. Like, I think that I've experienced a couple of times where I'm just like, look, I'm happy with these random weird moments where people sort of like, might just randomly walk up on stage like an old guy who's drunk and tells everyone they enjoyed the show. Like
Stuart says he's all right with that, but if you're a listener, do not do that. Never walk on stage unless you're invited. No. If you're invited, absolutely, you can feel free to say no as well, though. But never walk on stage uninvited. You're not part of it.
You're not part.
Sit out and enjoy it.
Exactly, but like there's harmless moments like that just happen, and you all stand there and you go, is this happening?
And then it's so surreal again as well. Like you don't. It's like, is this meant to happen? What is this guy important? Does he own this? What?
There's some strange moments, and then there's moments that are just not okay, where you're just like, it's this line where you're like, if you're in the audience, remember that we're still working.
Human beings.
We're still human beings. We're still working. We can hear you. We can see you. We can see what you're doing. So, you have to be respectful when you come into these places. But I mean, there are some times when things go astray, which, they do pan out to be quite funny or awkward moments. But, sometimes I struggle for words to describe it, but
I get the same as well. Yeah,
it's a weird space, but I think the one thing when you come to these shows is you have to remember that it is work for us. And it's hard work a lot of the time. Because,
oh my God. And like everyone's like, oh, you make it look so easy. It's like, because I've done that. Practiced that a million fucking times. There's a reason I can fall downstairs and make it look like it hurts. I've practiced that so many times. Like, this is stunts, obviously. There's not many theater shows of falling downstairs. No, just how we get downstairs now. Yeah, but it's like, because it takes so much work. And the same with singing and then actually putting together a show. Like, people might make it look effortless, but because they've honed that so much. And then you shouting like, give us a song, and you're like, oh, that's not really helping. Thanks, mate. It's just so strange the way that people choose to interact with that stuff, and then consistently do it throughout the show as well. I just got back from Adelaide Fringe at time of recording last weekend. And I saw so many great shows there as well. But there was this one show of past guest Holly. She was in it, called Grit, and it was absolutely fantastic show, like so fierce, and really celebrated women's sexuality and stuff like that. But there was just somebody I was sitting near that wolf whistled about 50 times throughout the show, and I'm like, it's cool, it's interacting and stuff, but I'm like, maybe once or twice is fine.
I know.
Just such a weird interaction to give people.
It's you know, it's such a strange environment. I mean, you certainly learn to deal with certain situations. I mean, some situations you just, they're dealt with obviously like within the venue or something like that. But there's those moments like heckler moments and things like that, which you do as a performer learn how to just shut that down or point that out or move on or whatever. And sometimes those are great moments. I mean, I've had some corker moments like on stage where you've been doing stand-up comedy or something, and you're just like, the slightest thing will happen and you call it out and it becomes a moment and it's funny, and it's it just turns into this thing where it just becomes bigger than what it is. But
see, that stuff's great as well, but then I think certain people see that and they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to help this show as well, and they just shout out like they're again like 12 vodka raspberries in, and they'll be like,
once or twice is fine, but you like, again, it's a workspace. You're not a part of the show. I mean, there's a line between being annoying or offensive or rude, or there's those moments where you're just like, okay, you need to leave now because you're not this is not about you. This is about everybody else in the room. But I
have one, and this isn't so much embarrassing as it's just kind of a bit of a horrible story, I'm gonna be honest with you. But the same Midsummer show that I mentioned previously, the Balls show, there was one night, I think it might have been the second last night we were performing, so it was Midsummer, so a very inclusive space and stuff like that. A lot of people like different backgrounds, different sexualities and stuff like that, and there was a lot of us on stage. It was like exploring a lot of different male sexuality and stuff like that, and there was some of us that were clothed and not clothed at certain points and stuff like that. And there was the opening scene, somebody started trying to interact with us, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is a theater show, you don't need to interact with us. Nobody said anything, and we got up to a certain point, and then at one point, I don't know, about 20 minutes in, after he'd been shouting out a few things, he shouted out, and I don't want to say it on the podcast, the F slur.
I've heard that.
It's a horrible thing to say. Especially like there was someone naked on stage at the time as well. So he shouted it at this person, and like, my God, what a piece of shit. And they went to get kicked out, and then that person was like, no, you can't kick me out. That's homophobic. I'm gay. And you're like, it doesn't matter, mate. You can't be shouting that to people on stage. Horrible stuff. So I mean, don't be using that slur in general, but don't shout it out to somebody in such a vulnerable position.
I've had that too on stage, and it's knocked me for six. I remember one night, just because you can. I think people forget, like, on stage, hearing something like that. If you're in front of a crowd of like 600, right? You know, like, one person can say that and not everybody hears it. But
and it doesn't always make its way to the stage as well sometimes. But
as a performer, like, I think after a while you were so fine-tuned to listen to, in the dark, if you hear a sound come out, like, there's 1,000 different ways you can say a word, but I think I certainly learned over the years that I can, my ear has been fine-tuned to hear the intent and the malice behind some of these things, where you just go, oof, and I think I remember one night hearing something like that, and I hadn't performed for maybe 12 months.
Oh,
it
wow.
might have been longer. So not being long back into it, hearing that was like, oh my God. And it really changed my perspective on, just being a performer and the space that you're in and the people that you're dealing with. And, like, I don't know. It sort of, it knocked me, and I moved on from it. But it did sort of affect me for a few days to sort of rethink about the whole, situation, and kind of go,
because you're so exposed and vulnerable on stage as well. And you're like, there's a million different things that run through your head at any given moment whilst on stage. So many different moving parts, and then if somebody throws something like that at you, it'll knock you, and it's a horrible thing to hear. But it really fucking stays with you as well.
It does.
I think that's what people don't realize as much. And I don't know, like, they can, I don't know, it's a strange, I mean, it's a dumb thing to shout regardless, but like, I don't know if people are shouting it as like an endearing thing, malice. I think that they're just trying to get on board with it. Like, it's such a,
Yeah, I mean, there's. I think that's what I mean by when you can hear
intent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree. Like it, yeah. I think every situation is very different. It's not a great word to use.
It's
mean,
definitely not a good word to bandy
no,
around.
it's not something you just throw out there. But you can definitely hear. I think that's as a performer, just being on stage for many years and hearing different things. Sometimes you hear those things and you sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. But sometimes it can come at you and just knock you. And it's
real unfortunate as well, because you will hear lovely things from people sometimes.
Yes, but it's
and
those
that's
ones
the stuff that doesn't
out.
stick with you. It's those horrible things, and they're the
Yeah.
ones that keep you up at night. And again, like this is a comedy podcast for the most part, so I do apologize for bringing down the tone. I think it's important to talk about, obviously.
But comedy,
like we are human. But yeah, like it's just amazing, that kind of stuff that stays with you. And like, again, just like everyone, like we're just people, man.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't matter how many people we're in front of. Like,
Yep.
And comparatively to us, like there's people way more famous that have to put up with this sort of stuff way more regularly, and I'm sure way worse as well, to be honest with you. But it's like, fuck, man, just treat people like regular human beings.
It just like it like theater is it's a workspace.
Yeah,
and there's things that happen in this space to obviously challenge people and make people laugh and cry and explore different issues and all that sort of stuff. But people have to remember that at the end of the day that it is a workspace and that we are there just as everyday people, just this is what we love to do, this is what we come to do. So if it's not your thing, don't come. Like if you're the type of person who's gonna do that sort of stuff, just don't come. Like
I know,
you're not
right?
a nice person. Like I like
research things before you go along to them as well. Like don't just turn up to something because you've like seen it in passing. And also, if you don't enjoy it, just sit there quietly, like or leave in the break, leave quietly. Not everything's for you, and that's fine. Not everything has to be for you. But shut the fuck up.
Oh my god.
Anyway, sorry, I really brought down the tone of this podcast.
We did, but I think that was
like it's an important thing to put out there for sure. I did mention before this, and I keep bringing this up on the podcast as well. But like my main goal for this podcast, I'm going to stop this podcast, stop this silly little podcast as soon as I find this one story of somebody shitting their pants in an audition on stage or live. And I'd mentioned this to Stu before, and I'm sorry for anyone that doesn't enjoy Brown Talk, but maybe this podcast or this part isn't for you.
I've come close.
But yes, that was what I wanted to bring it up to. If you're comfortable to share this story with us, I would love to hear this.
I have come very close. In fact, I think it was one of my very first questions when I was like starting out. I was like, what happens if this happens? Because I feel like I've definitely simmered down now, but I feel like anxiety was a big part of
anxiety plays hell with your guts.
Oh my god, like
there's the classic pre-show poo every single show.
I almost got trapped in a toilet one night. There was one of those sliding doors and it came off the thing.
And it just sits there and you're like, all right, I'll just sing from in here.
I'm in here now.
It's also so dangerous as well, because like
so dangerous.
You're live mic'd before a show, or if you're ever on set as well, usually you've got they call it a lav or a lapel mic that they stick to your chest, and then there's like you can't get to the pack to turn it off, so you just have to quietly whisper and be like, hey, anyone on sound, I'm going to the bathroom, mute me for the next couple of minutes. Or like if the sound person's away and they come back and all they hear is just and they're like, oh shit.
I recall it was New Year's Eve. I don't remember what year it was, what year it was turning.
Presumably one of the past years. Yeah.
It was I remember having the worst gastro I have ever experienced. I mean, like, I remember woking up. I was woke. I remember
Stewart Reeve is woke. Everyone, do not cancel him.
I remember waking up one night and just going, "Oh, I've got to just get out of bed for a moment." And then, I just remember
Armageddon
spewing the whole lot.
Jesus.
I was just ill for 2 or 3 days. I think I went and got the injection, the Maxilon injection, because every time I was drinking, I was just sick.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the vomiting and everything stopped. But everything else was still a little bit jippy. It was need the Yakult, need the...
You're really, really rolling the dice there, aren't you? Yeah.
And it was New Year's, and it was just like, just had to happen. I just had to be, doing the show.
Well, that's the thing as well. We don't get sick days. I mean, like, luckily if you do have an understudy, but sometimes with like those one-off gigs and stuff like that, you're like, I cancel that. I can't afford my rent for next month, so you have to do it.
Sometimes it just doesn't line up. So I was okay.
Yep.
Like I was in that space of like
no longer glued to the toilet.
No,
but
like I
had to be in the vicinity of a bathroom.
I can make it through.
Yep.
But I soon realized that it was still the same thing. Anytime I was drinking water or eating anything, it was like, ooh,
Yeah.
So I remember, I think it was an In Excess number. It was like Never Tear Us Apart or something like that. And the stage had the riser at the end, and it was going up. And
so the riser's that little box that comes out the stage. Yep.
Lifts you into the air. And I just remember being out there by myself and everything just like twitching and pulsating, thinking at any moment I will just, if I need to, I will jump off this stage and I will run to the bathroom.
Oh my God.
It was just that, it was like all my worst fears had just been realized in that moment. I made it through. Nothing happened, but my God, like you've never...
You're just off stage sweating. Yes. Yeah.
Like if you're in an office, you can just go, I gotta go. Yeah. And you just leave. Like, tools down, you're out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can just leave through a number, just go, I gotta go, and someone else explain it, but...
You're screaming to the sound desk, be like, mute this mic, mute this mic!
Oh my God, I've never, like, dry mouth.
Yeah, wow.
The worst part about all of that, right, is that, when you're just ill and you're like, just get me home.
Yeah, right.
I used to live in the city, like, sort of, just out, like, well, it was in the city. It was like St Kilda Road. So, the walk from there to home. And I'd kind of forgot, because I'd done a couple of New Year's by that time, that you can't just get an Uber.
Oh, it's fucked.
The city's closed down. There's no tram. There's no tram.
Even walking. I mean, obviously, you probably. I said probably. Yeah. Anyway, you probably wouldn't want to walk at that time because it's just an absolute nightmare. And I mean, you have shaky legs by the sounds of things as well.
I was nipping the cheeks of my ass from work all the way home, just thinking,
For anyone that's not in Melbourne as well, that's a decent enough walk, especially on the New Year's Eve. There's a lot of people that you have to dodge.
It's like RMIT in the city, all the way down to I was next to the Albert Park.
Lake. Wow, yeah. So that's a good 2 or 3 kilometers.
It's a good walk.
It is. It's at the best of times.
It's a straight road down, but when you're like
you're walking straight-legged and just the blinders are on, you're like, I'm just pushing children out the way,
pushing through hundreds of thousands of people, just thinking, am I going to make this? I mean, it was all fine, but it was just, that was the absolute most horrendous. I clearly recall that moment just being like, I don't think I'm not going to make this. But I've never
followed through.
No, I've never followed through on stage. I've certainly, it's gone through my mind a number of times. What would I do? How would it,
I know, I'm always scared of that sort of stuff. And again, it's stuff they don't teach you in acting school or singing school or drama school. You're up there and you're stuck.
What's the procedure?
What's the brown procedure? Please, sir, how do I deal with this?
I think you just have to leave. I don't think there is a way around it. I think you've just got to, tools down and go.
But I know, right? You do somebody else on stage, you're like, fuck, just cover. Yeah.
I think that's the closest I've ever been to anything like that. But
yeah, it's scary stuff.
Horrendous moments.
Yeah. Well, we'll find that one story one day. We'll find the story of whoever's, as the Scottish say, cacked their breeks.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll be honest with you. But I think that might be us if you don't have any more shitting your pants stories.
No,
Did you have anything else left? I know Stuart came very prepared with his little notes as well. Do we have any other notes?
No. I'm gonna walk home and there's gonna be like a golden story that I can think.
That always happens. So many. So like a little bit of a peek behind the curtain with this again. I usually email people and they're like, I don't know if I can think of anything, and then it starts coming in and like, oh, this happened, and everyone turns up, and then usually during the podcast people remember other things, and I pretty much without fail always get a message from people afterwards be like, I just remembered this, and I'm like, well, I'm glad that you can sit with that story now. That's brought up those old memories and they're in your head. My apologies.
I think most of the worst stories that I can that embarrassing moment, I think they've all been dreams. I've had many a night when I've woken up gone and it's been like the song started and words aren't coming out. I'm ill prepared or something like that.
My dreams always we're opening night, and then I'm like, I haven't learned any of the lines. Oh God, I'm so sorry. And they're like, we have to go ahead, otherwise we have to cancel the show.
Yeah,
And everyone's
in
and you're like,
tears,
oh, I'm so
just-
sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh God.
Panicked.
Yeah. It's so funny as well. Like that's such a cliche dream to have, but
It
it's
is.
such a recurring dream for so many performers.
Yeah, I've had that so many times where I've just been absolutely panicked and woken up in that fluster
Isn't
of
that
like,
a fucking nice way to wake up as well? Especially if you're in a show run too.
Oh.
You wake up and you're like, was that real? Am I? Oh
yeah,
God.
yeah, feels so real. But I think most of the stories that I've had have just been. I don't think I've really had any really embarrassing corkers that unless someone can think of them. But
If anyone's got any videos from that aforementioned vampire restaurant, please send them through.
most of them have just been like really funny, good times, and I think
That's nice.
yeah,
That's well. Fuck you, Stuart.
Yeah.
How dare you have nice and fun memories? I got all these horrible things that keep rolling around in my head.
they've just been. I think in hindsight, they've been really funny moments because when you look back on them, there's been some absolute cracker moments.
Oh,
But
I think
yeah.
in the moment, like sometimes, especially when things really fuck up, is one of the worst things in the world. But then you look back and you're like, yeah, that was kind of funny actually. Yeah, you just need that little bit of distance and that
Yes.
little bit of appreciation of what
Perspective.
could have happened. Or
Yes.
you're like,
yeah,
this could have gone a lot worse. But
No.
in the moment, you're like, oh fuck, man, I hate this. I'm sweating. I don't know how to fix this.
good
Yeah,
times. Oh my
it
God.
really was, huh? Well, thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So where can we find you? Either online or in person? What's your home address?
What's my
yeah,
home
where can we
address?
find you in person, Stuart? No. What have you got coming up as well?
You can find me over at Stew_face on Instagram.
And that's stew as in beef stew,
STEW.
STEW. Yep.
Yes.
I don't know why I said beef stew as well there.
No.
Yeah. My apologies for that.
You can find me over there. I've got a couple of things coming up. I've got still yet to update all the things, but yeah, I'm doing sort of like we've just done a massive 6-month tour with Rebel the show.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a quick little snippet about what Rebel is?
Yeah, so Rebel is a David Bowie cabaret circus tribute show. So we've got performers who are a live band who are jumping in and out of acts. I'm mainly just singing in the show, but we've been touring the show for the last few years now. We just did a massive tour around Australia. We ended up in Edinburgh and New Zealand.
Yeah, that's
And,
fantastic. Very good
yeah.
show as well. I've seen it a couple of times myself.
Thank you.
If you're a David Bowie or fuck, I had this problem when
Bowie.
I had Rachel Trainer on David
Bowie.
Bowie. If you're a David B fan, Davey B, go and check this out because absolutely like stellar. I mean, performances across the board from everyone as well. And like what Rachel said when she was on as well, it's everyone that's playing the instruments is doing the acts,
Yes.
and then
We're-
yourself and her doing so many different things as well.
Flipping in and out of things. I mean,
Literally, yeah.
We finally. I think I feel like we've had a few stumbling blocks with like COVID and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, that kind of fucked up
yeah,
live performances.
you
I'll
know.
be honest with you.
So we sort of hit the ground running last year just to get everything back up and running.
Yeah.
And, we were tweaking as we went along. It was like 6 months of just, right around Australia first. And then we lucky enough to get over to Edinburgh, and then we did New Zealand.
Yeah,
to
Edinburgh
finish.
Fringe, huh? That's so exciting.
Because it was all just sort of banked up from, the last couple of years of being locked down.
Yeah, I
so
know, right?
it was great. So we did that for 6 months. I'm taking we finished that around about October last year. So I'm just having a break. It's just nice
Bit
to
of a mental health break.
well, it's nice to just, I didn't realize how taxing touring would be.
Just being away from home fucking sucks sometimes. Like, it's just
Yeah.
so draining.
Airports, cars,
Yeah.
hotel rooms, driving,
Yeah,
delays.
trying to find somewhere to eat. It's like, yeah,
Oh,
it's like it's like little things like that. You're like constantly just having fried food, and you're
Yes.
so greasy and you're so tired.
Yeah, it
I
was
mean, very
crazy.
privileged things to complain about, obviously,
Yes.
but like it is still very taxing.
It's very taxing, especially when you're, the show is, we're setting up, packing down, moving.
So high energy
packing,
as well.
unpacking,
Yeah, I
yes.
don't know if I've ever seen a man sweat as much as I've seen Stewart Reeve in
Oh
the
my
middle of
God.
summer.
Well, the
during
first
his
costume
show.
was like a doona covered, and then
Yeah.
underdressed that with another costume, and then like some of the places, like I always thought when I started this, I'm like Spiegel tent. I'd love to do a Spiegel tent. My
Oh,
God,
Spiegel tent is beautiful, but no air
What?
conditioning, no airflow. It's just a tent in the middle of summer as well. Sometimes.
first season
Yeah.
was like 40 degrees in
Yeah.
Adelaide, and I nearly slipped out of the bottom of my costume because it
Yeah,
was just
I'm not
so
surprised.
so hot. So
So if you want to see a man like fully sweat through a white shirt, go and see Rebel.
Translucent. I know.
A wet t-shirt contest.
Yes.
Contest by the end of it.
I
Yeah.
know. I feel like I've learned so much from doing that show and touring and just performing in general, because it's challenged sort of things that I've done, but it's been great. So I've done that. We're doing a bit more of that probably in the next year or so. I've got some solo stuff coming up. But at the moment, I'm just taking a moment to like.
It's necessary sometimes, isn't it?
I just want to sit in a chair and just clear
Talk
my
about
mind.
almost shitting yourself on a podcast.
Yeah.
That's what we all want to do.
Oh my God.
All of your details will be in the show notes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So any of your upcoming, do you have Chameleon coming back at any point in your solo
yeah,
show?
yes,
Yeah.
So that's coming up. I should know the dates off by hand, but I don't. I think it's about May that I start doing stuff again.
Okay,
with
we'll
that.
keep an eye out for Stuart during May.
Yeah, I will.
I'll put everything in the show notes of all the links and where we can find you. But again, Chameleon's a very impressive one-man show as well. I've yet to see it, but I'm sure it's great.
I'm yet to see it too. Like yes. So I'll have to update everything, but I think finding the balance over the next year will be nice to sort of like perform and do things and find time.
Yeah,
for
so you don't
everything
just
else.
fully burn out and then give up the entire industry in 2 years' time because you're so tired.
Yeah,
it's a tough juggling act.
It's a lot, but it's fun. But
It is fun, isn't it?
What, and give up showbiz?
Yeah, no. One day we'll find that
all the
rich
things-
partner.
All the things we've just discussed and covered. Like what? Give up showbiz?
I know, right?
Yeah,
No, we can give up when we finally get that story of someone shitting their pants.
Yeah,
Or
okay.
if you shit your pants, then we can finally give up. That's everybody's end date in showbiz, I reckon. No, but we love it, obviously. I know I do complain about that sometimes on here and all that sort of stuff. But the reason I make this podcast is because I do enjoy it so much. Oh, Stuart's furiously checking his watch now as well. It's like, is this thing over?
No, I just bought it this morning because it's my birthday on Wednesday.
Oh, a happy birthday. Okay, so this will be coming out.
Sound like a child when I say that. It's my birthday.
Yeah, it's a really nice Mickey Mouse watch as well. Mickey's arms are moving around and it glows in the dark. It's beautiful. No, all right. So this will be coming out in a couple of weeks' time. So it would have been Stuart's birthday a week and a half ago. So go and send him. You can link your PayPal if you want, stuff like that, and we'll give out his home address so you can turn up with birthday presents there as well.
It sounds so childish when people say, it's my birthday.
I know.
Like I've always just
I've been
like,
wearing a birthday hat the entire time as well. I did wonder about that.
we've sat here for an hour and you've never once mentioned my birthday.
I just thought it was a weird, I don't know, performers are strange. Man, you should see what some people have worn on this podcast previously. But my apologies, I should have known better.
No. Oh my
But happy
God.
birthday to you, Stuart.
Stop it.
Happy birthday. No, I'm not fucking singing that. Well, thank you again for coming on. And as always, you can find Won't Be Forgetting That pod across most of the socials. If you did enjoy this, please do rate and review us 5 stars. It really does help. And if you want to find me anywhere, I'm mostly on Instagram, but you can find me on YouTube as well at Seb Muirhead, Muirhead. And thank you once again, Stewart Reeve. Happy birthday.